Hey guys, my name is Michael. Welcome to my channel, and I'm here to show off my top 5 most expensive hip-hop records in my vinyl collection. Let me show you. So the first record I'd love to talk about is an album called So the Flies Don't Come by Milo and Kenny Siegel. This vinyl itself is a very rare and limited edition pressing. There were 2 editions that were made. One, I believe, off of Bandcamp in 2016 and another repress in 2017. This copy here is the 2017 edition, limited to about 500 units. I got super lucky scooping this up on Bandcamp. This is a great underground hip hop record for anyone who loves jazzy production, some introspective and great soul bars. And Milo himself, who now goes by R.A.P Ferreira, has a lot of great poetry, a lot of really cool bars, a lot of cool introspective hip-hop, and I think I'd recommend this to anyone who loves music that they can, listen to on their own. This isn't something that I would recommend to someone who wants to, play it at a party, but for someone who's looking for some sweet, introspective, just moving hip-hop, this is a record I would definitely recommend. So the median price it goes for right now is roughly around $482, but there's only one copy on sale right now that seems to be going for roughly around $631. I plan to keep mine, but if you're interested in a copy, you might have to wait around to see if one comes up for a little bit cheaper. So the second record I'd love to talk about is Benny the Butcher, TANA Talk 3. This, in my opinion, is probably the best album Griselda's ever released. Obviously, everyone has known Griselda through Westside Gunn and Conway and Benny the Butcher. But I have to say that this one, in my opinion, seems to be their most consistent release, mainly because I think the production is the best it's ever been with Griselda, with Alchemist and Derringer all over this project, but also because the bars that Benny brings and Westside brings on this project are just great. Not only that, but I think overall, it has the cleanest sounding Griselda pressing that I own. And it's probably because of how limited it is. I was able to scoop this up on the DAUPE, D-A-U-P-E. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce how it's pronounced because I have no fucking idea. But I do know that there was about 500 to 200 copies per variant of this release. Luckily, I was able to scoop up the blue copy here. And it sounds fantastic. It has a lot of great bass on it, a lot of great hi-hats, and I don't have really any complaints for this pressing. This is limited to 333 copies worldwide. Luckily enough, I was able to scoop my hands on one right now. The median price that it goes for is about $383, but if you want to own a copy right now that's of value right now, or what can be picked up on the Discogs website, it's currently going for around $640 to $730. So if you want a copy of this, you're gonna have to shell out some cash or hope for a repress from Benny. The third record I'd love to talk about here is The Alchemist and Action Bronson's Rare Chandeliers. This is probably my favorite project that Action Bronson has ever released, coming out in 2012. Great introduction to any type of abstract underground hip hop. I would recommend this to anyone who's getting into hip hop. I think Action Bronson, over the years has had some hit or miss projects in my opinion, but this project in particular I think brings out the best in both producer and rapper. Mainly because also you have production completely from The Alchemist here. Great beats on it like Randy the Musical, Demolition Man with Schoolboy Q, Bitch I Deserve You, Michael Vick, and Gateway to Wizardry, to name a few. But not only this is one limited edition copy of 500 that I was able to scoop up on the Alchemist Bandcamp back in, I want to say, 2020, I think? I don't know, it was a few years ago at this point. Just comes on a standard black vinyl here. I know that they released 2 other versions, one in I think a pink and the other in like a glow in the dark. But it was like an extra like 30 or 40 bucks for that. I didn't really care that much. I just wanted a copy on wax. So I ended up getting the black copy here, and it sounds just amazing here. And not only that, but it came up with some really cool shit in the packaging here. I don't even know what the hell these are, but they're kind of like movie cards, I guess, because it looks like this is like almost like an interpolation of what a Rare Chandeliers movie would have looked like for the album. So we have all these shots of Action Bronson, and it looks like a wig, just walking around fighting people with swords and shit. And then you have like all the credits with the Alchemist and all the features up here. Just really cool. Just some cool little like art cards that are included with the album. Kind of gives you a sense of what the album feels like when you're listening to it. Just a bunch of chaos and loud and just awesome bars, yeah. Looks like a cool movie poster right here. Yeah, so it's dope. And it also came with these like little mini stickers as well here. One with some little action surrounding himself with a bunch of women, you know, good on him. Another one of the album cover here, which is pretty sick. And then it looks like a sticker of one of the art cards that came with the project. So yeah, sounds great. Love the tracks, and I have no problem with this album. And I would, like I said, I would recommend this to anyone who wants a good introduction to underground hip hop. And this record currently is on sale for Discogs. The median average price for this seems to be roughly around $450 to $500. I have no idea if this has a plan for a repress, but I do know that if you are willing to shell out the cash for this record, it sounds really great on my turntable, and it sounds amazing. It's a great record, and it's definitely a lot better sounding than the bootlegs. I have a few friends that have a bootleg copy of this, and it just doesn't compare. So the next record I have up here is an official copy of Westside Gunn's Pray for Paris. This is the white edition copy, limited to 500 units right here. This record itself is probably my favorite Westside Gunn project, along with probably most people that like Westside Gunn. This seems to be more or less the fan favorite for the record. This, again, like Benny the Butcher's TANA Talk 3, went on sale on the DALP Bandcamp website. Unfortunately, I was one of the people that did not manage to get my hands on a copy, unfortunately. However, I was able to scoop this up on Discogs right after it came out. I will say I paid a little over $100 for it, which in retrospect seems a little expensive for this record. But the fact that I was able to get it for such a cheap price now, compared to what it goes for now, is just absolutely insane. Production and features all over this project are great, from The Alchemist, Derringer, and some great features from Freddie Gibbs and Tyler the Creator on here, bringing their best bars and some of the best beats that Westside Gunn has ever flowed on. My favorites have got to be No Vacancy, 327 with Joey Badass and Tyler, Claiborne Kick, and Party with Pop Smoke. This record itself, I love the art on it too. I think it's so dope. And obviously I still have the plastic wrap, as you can see on it, just because I don't want to damage this record, and I feel like it kind of preserves just how special it is, you know, in terms of the collection standpoint. I do have the white copy of this right here on white vinyl here. It sounds really great. No complaints at all. The one thing I will say though, in comparison to all the records that I've shown off in this video, is the pressing for this vinyl, in my opinion actually, doesn't sound like amazing. It sounds good, but it doesn't sound great. Like, I have a lot of other projects, hip hop in particular, that the mastering just sounds a lot better for some reason. Maybe it's just my copy in particular that doesn't sound the best. It doesn't sound bad, but I just believe that there are other better sounding hip hop vinyl out there. But, you know, it still sounds great, don't get me wrong. And this is a great project and a lot of great tracks on this. Now, the median price that this usually goes for on Discogs is around $550 to $600. So the copies that you can find on Discogs right now are upwards of $1,065 to $1,500 in price. My advice would be to maybe stick to a bootleg, because unless you want to shell out $1,000 for this, which I don't recommend you do, you know, be my guest, but I think you could probably find a bootleg copy for this if you really wanted it for like way less money, and it probably will sound maybe not as good, but I think you'll be just fine with it. But I'm very lucky to have a copy of this. It's something that I don't plan to sell for anytime soon, unless I need to pay for rent, which is probably very soon. The next record I have here is probably considered to be my top 2 currently, and my most expensive records in my collection. This is one that I hold really dear, and I try not to play too much just because I'm worried about ruining the quality on the pressing. But I have an official copy of Death Grips' EXMILITARY on vinyl. This was not easy to find originally. I was able to buy this maybe about 5 or 6 years ago on Discogs. Again, I did not buy this originally when it came out because I wasn't actually a fan of the band when it came out. This was like all the way back in 2011 maybe when it came out. So unfortunately I wasn't around the fan base at the time to be able to scoop this up. So I was able to buy it on Discogs maybe about 6 years ago. About 6 years ago. I did pay a little over, I think I paid about $230 for this, which I know seems a little crazy to buy for a single vinyl record. But in retrospect, very happy that I did, because now you can barely find a copy of this online. But if you do, it goes for an absurd amount of money right now. A couple of telltale signs to show this is an official pressing and not a bootleg like most pressings that are out right now. The official pressing here has a little mark here in the corner. It looks almost like a Sharpie mark right here. This is a telltale sign this is an official pressing, because all the bootlegs don't have this little mark in the corner here. And not only that, but a lot of the bootlegs are on a double LP here, where the official pressing here is on a single LP, with just a side A and a side B. And like most of the other pressings that they have, it's just a standard black. But to really show that this is an official pressing and not a bootleg, and as you can tell right here by the grooving and the etches on the record itself, it has the exact engravings and grooves of the original pressing right here on the side, besides both the A and B labels. And as you can tell and check on Discogs, the exact same markings will be on the listings for any of the Death Grips ex-military official pressings. This vinyl on my turntable, holy shit, I will say, this is probably one of the best sounding pressings I own in my collection. This thing lifts off the turntable. This thing sounds so good. It's loud as hell. The highs and lows of this record sound fucking fantastic. Funny enough, this wasn't my favorite Death Grips album originally, but now with having it on vinyl and listening to the pressing of it, it's gotta be top 3. This thing just sounds incredible. Favorite tracks on it gotta be Spread Eagle, Across the Block, Tachyon, Culture Shock, and Blood Creepin'. So the median over the last few years that this record goes for on Discogs seems to be $1,065. I mean, it's a great record. I mean, I don't have any reason. I wouldn't blame anyone for wanting to buy this, but you can see a few copies on Discogs right now that are going for roughly or under $1,000. Looks like anywhere from between $980 to upwards of $1,400. So if you also want to shell out the cash for this, if you're a diehard Death Grips fan and you want to collect, I would recommend picking this up if you have the cash and you're willing to spend it, because this thing sounds absolutely incredible on the turntable, and I would recommend it to anybody who loves this band. So the next record I want to talk about is Hermit and the Recluse by Ka and Animos. This is a great hip-hop record, great underground hip-hop record. Rest in peace to Ka, one of the greats. You know, it's still tragic to hear about his passing back in October. You know, words can't express the grief that the hip-hop community faced when they heard about his passing. But this record, man oh man, is this something to behold. It is just absolutely amazing. Great bars. The whole album is centered on Greek mythology, hip-hop inspired by stories of, Orpheus and Atlas, Ergo, tons of really cool Greek legends that are, inspired through a lot of his bars on this record. The production on this thing is so cool. It almost sounds like you're sitting on a cloud for a lot of the time that you're listening to this record. I have nothing to complain about it at all. I think it's a great hip-hop record. Again, it's not for everyone. This record is very downtrodden, very spoken word-esque. There's a lot of deep, painful bars on this record that I think, are very relevant to today's societal, problems. And I just think the pressing on this thing is super cool. Luckily enough, I was able to get one of the blue copies that he released on his website a few years ago instead of the black version, which is even more rare than the blue version is even more rare than the black version that they have. Sounds great. Again, one of the best sounding hip hop records I have in my collection. All of Ka's vinyl that I do own just sounds absolutely fantastic, and I have nothing but great things to say about this record. My favorite tracks on this album are probably Sirens, Hades, and Golden Fleece, and just absolutely fantastic production from Animos. Rest in peace to Ka. Sad to think that this is the only record that will ever come out of these two, but one that is definitely one that I will definitely recommend to people that want to get into some good underground hip hop. Again, with the passing of Ka in October, unfortunately, this record has skyrocketed in value, for all the wrong reasons. I bought this originally with another record that I'm about to show up next from Ka, back on his website back in 2020. So this I probably paid about, $100 for this, which again, seems a little bit pricey in retrospect, but since his passing and just over the years in value, this record has usually a mean value beforehand of around $300 to $400. Now the highest this is sold for is upwards of $2,200, with some copies currently going on Discogs right now for upwards of $2,051. Just ridiculous. To all these resellers again that are, skyrocketing these prices, please go fuck yourselves. This man's craft is going to be forever remembered by the hip hop community, and another record that I would very much recommend to anyone who wants to get into some underground hip hop. And now the final record I'm going to talk about today, considerably probably maybe the most valuable record in my collection, is Ka's Descendants of CAIN. This is a very limited edition vinyl that I have. 365 copies were made of this and were available on Ka's website. He originally sold them for about $100 a piece way back when it was available. Very, very, very glad I picked one of these up. This is probably, unbeknownst to anyone, maybe a bit of a surprise, definitely my favorite Ka record here. I think he has a lot to say on this record. I think the themes of family and just friendship and just the hardships that he had to go through while growing up really shine through on this record. I think it's just an incredible listen. And unfortunately, he did pass away recently in October of last year, which has, unbeknownst, unfortunately, made this record skyrocket in value. Like I said, only 365 copies were made, and luckily enough, I was able to scoop one and had one prior to his death. But now the Discogs median price for this, before his death, usually this went for around $450 to $500 when it was resold on Discogs. Post his death, I've seen copies fly off Discogs for anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 for this record in particular. Most notably right now, it seems like we have a few people that are even selling this record from anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000, which is just insane. I mean, no one's gonna pay for that. To all the resellers that are actually selling it for that price, please kindly go fuck yourselves, because you're honestly putting a stain on this man's name by making these records completely inaccessible for the real fans that enjoy his music, like myself. And it's mainly one of the reasons why I don't own a lot of his material, just because of how rare it is. Plus, it's not going to be repressed. I doubt it. I don't see any circumstance which it would be repressed. But just this record is just fantastic. Very emotional listen. It's not for everyone, I gotta say, if you've never heard of this. It's very almost spoken word-esque. Very calm, very chill beats. It's almost like he's talking more than he's rapping, which a lot of people seem to not like. But I think, in my opinion, has probably the greatest pen game in all of hip-hop, undoubtedly. I think he writes some of the best poetic lines I've ever heard in my life, and I just think it's a great introductory record to Ka if you're looking for something to listen to. And the record here comes on a very, very nice pink marble vinyl here, one of my favorite copies in my collection. Very, very beautiful, very sick. Has a nice pressing of or picture of a dove here. I just think it looks absolutely amazing. Sounds fantastic on the turntable too. Both of the records that I have from Ka both sound absolutely amazing on my turntable, and I just have nothing but great things to say in regards to this record and how much of an impact it's had on how I view hip-hop in general. So rest in peace to Ka, and I really recommend, if you want to listen to this record, please give it a chance. My favorite tracks on this album are definitely the last two on it, Old Justice and I Love. Great send-off track here, especially the last song on the album is probably my favorite Ka song. So I definitely recommend listening to this if you want some good underground, true hip-hop from a true artist. And that's it for all the most expensive records in my collection. I want to thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more, please click the subscribe button and press like to see more videos. Thank you.